Hey guys, Arcturus here. Today we're going to be going over Eula's official character banner and her official weapons banner. There is currently 2 days left before the end of the Zhongli banner, so if you haven't picked him up yet, he's an amazing character. I've done a couple videos on him going over the numbers of his amazing shield and damage and how good of a character he is. It's nothing that you would want to skip if you love to just destroy the content in this game. So take a look at those videos if you'd like. Otherwise, let's take a look at Eula here. So quick review of Eula. I've also already done a video reviewing her skills individually and my thoughts on her best team composition. But to recap, basically, her skill set all involve AoE cryo application and damage along with AoE physical damage. Her main damage being from physical damage attacks and her ult burst. So if you want to take a look at that, I made a video going through it, but basically we will move on. I'm sure you guys probably know by now exactly how she operates. If not, take a look at that video. But as I have predicted in my video, her best set is probably going to be one of every element, or at least Muhoyo is going to give you the chance to put one of every element on her team with this banner, and this is a pretty good banner, but we're going to go over individually every single hero and see which ones you would want to use for her and in what instances. The benefit of having one of every element in your team though with Eula is going to be that you can melt any or destroy any shield of an elemental type that you encounter, allowing Eula's physical damage to shine and mop up as soon as the shield has been down. Alright, we're going to start with my personal favorite, Beidou. Her Tide Collar skill, her elemental skill, allows her to enter a counter stance that absorbs damage. Now unfortunately, when you're in this counter stance, you cannot move or attack. However, if you take damage while in the counter stance, you can unleash huge damage and AoE around you, applying electro damage to everybody. It also has a pretty low cooldown, 7.5 seconds. However, if you combine that with the Thundering Fury set, every time Beidou procs a electric reaction, this can decrease its cooldown, allowing you to have a lot of fun with her counter skill. This combined with her Retribution passive talent, which basically states that if you press your Tide Collar skill at the exact moment you are about to take damage, you will do massive damage immediately, and it leads to amazingly fun gameplay. If you haven't tried it, I really recommend you try Beidou. There is a reason why she is the Bae. Alright, so moving on. Stormbreaker is her elemental burst, her Q skill, and what this does is when you cast it, it causes an AoE persistent ultimate, allowing you to switch off of her to Eula if you'd like, that does electro damage, and every single time you attack with her normal or charged attack, whoever it is in possession of the shield will also proc a lightning damage that jumps between one additional target at C0. It also prevents damage. So at rank 8, it does 30% damage prevention, and the best thing is, you can combine this with Xingqiu's Rain of Swords that also prevents damage, and you could have up to like 50 or 60, 70, 80% damage reduction, and on top of the fact that Xingqiu will heal, but we'll get that into that later. So it has a 15-second duration and a 20-second cooldown, so you have a 5-second downtime, but it also costs 80 energy. So along with Eula's ult that costs 80 energy, you are going to need to proc a lot of elemental reactions to get your energy back to make sure you can keep these powerhouses running. So you either got to build some elemental recharge with Beidou, or just be content with using her once in a while, but then you build crit percent, crit rate, and she is going to slap so hard that you are just going to yeet everything out of existence. Her other passive, Lightning Storm, basically whenever you proc a perfect counter with her skill, Tide Collar, it increases the damage that she deals by 15% with her normal charge attacks, and increases her attack speed. So this would be good if you plan to use Beidou as an off DPS, or as a main DPS, I guess, but since we're talking about Eula, that won't be the case. However, because Beidou is a 4-star, this is basically useless because obviously Eula is the physical damage dealer, so this is pointless in a composition team with Eula. Her final passive, Conqueror of Tides, just decreases the party's stamina consumption when swimming by 20%, not a big deal. Quickly go over her constellation. Hopefully you can get some because she really gets better at C2. C1, whenever you use her ultimate, Stormbreaker, you will create a shield that lasts up to 15 seconds and absorbs up to 16% of Beto's max HP. So it is an electro shield, so it does electro more efficiently, blah blah blah. Not a big deal, but this is pretty good. You get some shield creation with this, so it really adds an extra bit of defensive element to Beto. C2, I think, is the best stopping point for her. Obviously, if you can do more, obviously that is better. However, this allows her ultimate to jump to additional 2 targets. Now, you're going to feel this if you have C1 or C0 Beto, but she definitely gets a lot stronger when you can do 2 additional jumps to a total of 3, and you will really be able to mow down teams in the Spiral Abyss or any groups of mobs. C3 increases the rank of her E skill by 3. C4, whenever she takes damage, and she does have to take damage, I don't believe a counter counts. She has to physically take damage. Her normal attacks will gain 20% electro damage, which is good, but once again, you won't be using Beto on the field except for to apply your ultimate and to use your counter, so this is pointless in a Eula team. Her C5 increases the level of her ult, which would be good if you can get it, and C6, when your ult is active, the electro resistance of surrounding opponents is decreased by 15%. Not bad in general, but as a C6, not that good. And in Eula's team, it's only 15% extra electro damage, so not going to be very good here. So best stopping point, C2. Otherwise, C0, still amazing because of her Tide Collar that just slaps. And you get a cool electro shield that when you level up, it really prevents damage taken. And that combined also with Eula's defensive capabilities. She's high defense anyways, but her Grimheart stacks as well. She is just going to be the biggest tank bruiser Genshin Impact has ever seen. Alright, on to the next one is Xingqiu. He's an amazing 4-star Hydro character. If you don't use him, you definitely should find a way to make use of him. He is amazing. His E skill allows him to quickly cause 2 damage instances, which they do a lot of damage if you can vaporize them, that's for sure. And they also create some floating swords around you that prevent or that reduce the damage that you take. Now they last 15 seconds, and when they go away or they are shattered by taking damage, you gain some HP. Not bad for some light heals. Combined with Beto's ultimate, you can stack the damage reduction, therefore making Xingqiu's healing capabilities basically all that you need. His ultimate is the Piece de Resistance. It makes some floating rain swords around you, therefore preventing your damage taken for 15 seconds for the whole time. Now when you take damage, they don't shatter, so you don't heal this way. And it also has a 5-second downtime and a huge energy cost. However, his only build is Elemental Recharge for sure, and his best in-slot weapon is the Sacrificial Sword, which gives you a lot of Elemental Recharge as well. Not to mention his E skill generates like 6 blue particles, so as long as Xingqiu catches those, that is a lot of energy back immediately. So his ultimate will cause every single normal attack to trigger rain swords to fall, dealing hydro damage, and this will be great because once again it's another persistent ultimate that you can proc and then switch to Eula and use her on the field. His passive talents, Hydropathic, causes him to heal based on 6% of his max HP whenever a ranged sword shatters. That's that little bit of healing I was talking about. And then his other one is he gains 20% hydro damage bonus, right off the bat, which is not bad. He really does do a lot of damage if you invest in him, and because he can be off the field and have persistent abilities, he is definitely worth it. His last passive, whenever he crafts a character talent material, he has 25% chance to refund a portion. This kind of conflicts with Eula's passive, which people have said that it's a 10% to double the final product. So it's up to you how lucky you feel. Do you want a 25% chance to refund the lower tier product, or do you want a 10% chance to double the final product? It's up to you, but his passive talent kind of clashes with Eula's in that regard. His best way to use with Eula, obviously, is to cast his ultimate, cause hydro damage, and then use Eula to apply her cryo periodically in the AoE, and then you can slap and shatter and do that burst damage. Now, MiHoYo has stated that they are going to be looking into increasing basically the strength of all the other elemental reactions except Hydro or the Vaporize and the Melt reaction. So maybe in the next patches, you don't have to always run Cryo and Pyro and Hydro to do Vaporize and Melt, and that's the only way to do damage. Now onto his constellations. I was able to get C6 when I was rolling for Hu Tao, but he is definitely good at C0 and gets better at C2. So C1 increases the number of rain swords by 1. Not bad, a little bit of extra healing. C2 extends the duration of his ult by 3 seconds, which is amazing. It'll last 18 seconds instead of 15 seconds. Additionally, it decreases the hydro resistance of opponents' hit by 15%, which is just a cherry on top, a little more hydro damage, but it's definitely the 3-second extended duration because it allows you to proc more, freezes with Eula, and also do more damage when he's out. C3 increases the level of his ultimate, his burst, by 3, which is amazing that they put it as a C3, not a C5 to reach for. And C4 is not bad. When your ult is active, Xingqiu's elemental skill will do an extra 50% damage, which makes him burstier. Really good if you can proc Vaporize with Xingqiu, but in Eula's team, not that big of a deal. C5 increases the level of his elemental skill by 3, so you can have more damage reduction. Not bad. And C6, if you can get there, is amazing. Basically, his elemental skill alternates between generating different amount of swords between 2 and 3 if you don't have C6, but if you have C6, it generates 2, 3, and 5 swords, allowing him to do a lot more damage. And also, whenever you get to the 5 rain sword shower, you also generate 3 energy for Xingqiu, allowing you to get his ult back faster because it costs 80 energy. Lastly, we have Xingyan, who does synergize slightly with Eula, but she's definitely not my favorite or one I would highly recommend with Eula. There are other options that you could consider, but we'll go over her talents here. She is good because she can generate a Pyro Shield, or just a shield in general. Now the skill does a little bit of damage. However, its most important bit is obviously its shield generation that gets stronger the more enemies you hit with your skill when you cast it. Now it only lasts 12 seconds with an 18-second cooldown, so you have 6-second downtime with no shield. However, if you get some constellations, her ultimate, her burst, Rift Revolution, will also generate a shield when you use it, but otherwise it just causes huge physical damage and then some pyro damage. And the reason this is good with Eula, obviously, is you're going to be running physical damage build, you proc Superconduct, you have applied Cryo with Eula, you can quickly pop to Xingyan, use Rift Revolution, and do a huge amount of physical damage as well, and some melt damage too. Now, the cooldown is 15 seconds, and it has a 60 energy cost, which is not bad, it's average, but that is, in my opinion, the best way she synergizes there. She also will increase the amount of physical damage that is done here, her passive talent. Whenever a character is shielded by her skill, Sweeping Fervor, is in play, they have their physical damage increased by 15%, which is not bad, but Eula already has all this damage increase built into her kit, and Superconduct, 15% really is not that much. So obviously, her best bit is going to be when you swap into her Rift Revolution, her burst, and then you can swap back to Eula and clap some more. Just a little bit of burst damage there. As far as constellations go, C1, Fatal Acceleration, is if you want to use her as off DPS with Eula. When you score a crit, increases her attack speed by 12%, but because she's a Claymore user that will be doing physical damage, she is not a character you would use with Eula. C2, Rift Revolution, increases the physical damage rate to 100%, so it's guaranteed crit, makes her great for burst damage, and when you use it, it will form a shield at level 3 of her elemental skill. So you know how I said there was some downtime with her elemental skill? If you wait for that to go away and then you swap back to Xingyan, play her ult, you proc the shield again, you could have 100% shield uptime with C2. It is definitely her best one. C3 increases your elemental skill shield by 3. C4 is another good stopping point. Whenever you deal damage with your elemental skill to somebody, it will decrease their physical resistance by 15%. Once again, a little redundant, but hey, it's Genshin Impact. The name of the game is damage, so you got that there if you get C4. C5 increases the level of her ult by 3, not bad. And C6 decreases her stamina consumption of her charge attack, and then it'll also give her bonus attack based on her defense. Not relevant in this case because you don't want to deal physical damage with anybody else but Eula because she's a 5-star and she's going to be the best physical damage dealer in the game when she releases for sure. And basically that's it. So like I said, you will be using Xingyan with Eula only to increase her physical damage slightly. It's not worth it in my opinion though, because once again you have another Claymore on your team, and unless you want to be running 3 Claymores on your team with Beidou, I highly recommend Beidou over Xingyan. So if you only get Xingyan and no Beidous, Xingyan is good for sure. However, if you get Beidou, I would use Beidou over Xingyan for sure, and I wouldn't run all 3 Claymore users on this banner at the same time. It would just not be a good idea. So now that we've reviewed her 4-star team, my personal opinion is that if you can run Xingqiu and Beidou on a team with Eula, that'd be amazing. If you don't want to use Beidou or you'd rather use Fischl, that is also a good substitution. However, as far as the 4th character on your team goes, I would not use Xingyan. If you can avoid her, I would use another Pyro character that can also serve as co-DPS when you're not using Eula. So I will go with a Diluc if you have him, or a Klee, or even a Yan Fei. Any other Pyro character that you can build up to do good non-physical damage would be great with this team here. So with that said, let's move on to her weapon banner. As usual, the weapon banner is a trap. Don't roll on this unless you have some extra Primo Gems to spare, or if you're feeling lucky, try it, but don't get disappointed if you don't get anything. There's a reason why everybody calls it a trap, and unlike the previous banner, which I thought had some merits, this one is a little riskier. Obviously, because the main feature is going to be the Song of Broken Pines, which is Eula's Claymore weapon, and what it does is it increases your attack percent by 16% consistently. Its secondary stat is physical damage, and when you trigger it through your normal and charge attacks, you're going to increase everybody's normal attack speed and their attack further, which is going to be good for Eula, going to be good for the rest of the team too, sure, but this is definitely a weapon made solely for Eula. Now, the problem with this is if you don't get the Song of Broken Pines, which is all about doing physical damage, and you're rolling for Eula because it's a physical damage character, the Aquila Favonia is also a physical damage weapon, so you're kind of being baited here by Mihoyo. Now if you have a Kaching or you play a Kaching, this would be a good time to pick it up. And hey, if you don't get the Aquila Favonia and you got the Song of Broken Pines as a Kaching main, great, get Eula, and now you're a Eula main, congratulations. But if you want the Song of Broken Pines, you're going to be sorely disappointed because the Aquila Favonia serves the same purpose for your team. Real fast through the 4 stars, you have Rust, which is basically Child's weapon, supposedly. However, my very first YouTube video ever, I did a comparison about the damage, and the Viridescent Hunt through the Battle Pass is technically a better weapon for Child. So if you like Rust, you can get it, but if you have $10 to spare, pick up the Battle Pass, get the Viridescent Hunt instead. It's a pretty good weapon instead of this because attack percent is always beat by crit percent or crit damage, and you get a lot of other stuff when you get the Viridescent Hunt to the Battle Pass as well, obviously. Moving on, you have the Sacrificial Sword. The Sacrificial Sword is Xingqiu's best weapon, so if you don't already have it, you can try rolling on this one. It's also got the Sacrificial Fragments, which is also really good, but you gotta have a Sacrificial Sword for Xingqiu. It really opens his energy recharge capabilities, allowing you to constantly have his 80 energy costs burst up. You have the Sacrificial Fragments, so if you have a character that you want to use with the elemental skills, like with Sucrose is my personal favorite, especially with them buffing elemental reactions in the future, Sucrose is going to be amazing, and Sacrificial Fragments is her weapon. There's going to be Dragon's Bane, which if you get it, I'm sorry. If you found a use for it, that is awesome. But I think for most people, this is going to be a dud weapon. And finally, the Rain Slasher, also in my opinion, a dud weapon. Now, it does increase damage against opponents affected by Hydro and Electro by 20%, and ups Elemental Mastery, so this would not be a bad weapon for Beidou on your team, because if you run Beidou, Eula, Xingqiu, and some other random character, chances are there will be a time when an opponent is affected by Hydro or Electro, because you're just throwing Rain Swords everywhere in Beidou's ultimate. However, it's a little finicky, and you may proc off elemental reactions down the line, so probably not her best weapon for Beidou. You're better off with an energy recharge sword like the Favonius Greatsword instead. So all in all, this banner is still a trap. The only good thing is the Song of Broken Pines. If you love physical DPS and you wouldn't mind playing Kaching physical DPS, you have the Aquila Favonia to set back on. So either one of these 5 stars are amazing physical damage weapons. The 4 stars, you're going to want Sack Sword. Sack Fragments is not bad, but otherwise that seems to be it. But yeah, that's just it. I just want to review the new banners that's coming up. If you liked what you heard today, please throw me a like on the video or subscribe to my channel. I just started YouTube videos, and I'll definitely get better at this in the future, and I plan to constantly release content as we go down the road. With that said, thanks for watching, guys. Arturus out. Take care.